Hi, this is Privateer Station, and today we bring you day 278 of Russian invasion into Ukraine. As always, with Olexiy Arestovych, advisor to the Office of the President of Ukraine, and Mark Feygin, Russian opposition politician. Today they discuss situation on the fronts, Crimean debate, and possibilities of Ukraine being there within half a year, videos and photos coming from Bakhmut front, problems that Russian military faces on the front related to harder weather conditions, new equipment and armaments for the Ukrainian army, diplomatic sitting on two chairs of the collective West about parity of Russian and Ukrainian forces, and a video about Prigozhin and his status in the prison world. Enjoy! Glad to see you all on Feigin Live. Dear friends, it's Monday, 28th of November. It's 3 minutes past 10 in Kiev and 3 minutes past 11 in Moscow. We are doing another stream. It is day... What day is it? Hang on, let me check. Day 278 with Olexiy Arestovich. Good evening, Olexiy. We have over 100,000 watching us live and 23,000 click the like button. Thank you all for continuing to stick with us for these long 9 months, over 9 months already. But we do need your aid to help promote this stream. So despite the problems with electricity and internet in Ukraine, more people could see our video. So please continue sharing, continue subscribing and liking. Each like definitely helps. We get more to the recommended videos on YouTube's. And of course, subscribe to Feigin Live. We only need 5,000 to reach 2 million. So it's sort of a champion spurt, the last leg of the run. So if perchance you haven't subscribed yet, you can do something nice for us for Christmas and click that subscribe button. As well, do that. Subscribe to Olexiy Arestovich channel. And if you are listening or watching that in English, please do not forget to subscribe to the Privateer Station. That helps us immensely. So we missed yesterday. Let's take a look over 2 days of activity. We'll bring up the map and do you see it? No, I don't, but I know it by heart, so okay, let's talk from Kherson side. There is not much activity on the ground. There is a lot of artillery duels happening, and we are substantially winning because we have a better equipment, we have better, more precise tools to eliminate their artillery assets. In return, they're mostly hitting civilian targets. They're not even trying to track our military, they're just shooting at civilian targets, and I don't know if that's revenge or poor sight, poor aiming. And we already have over 30 people wounded among civilians. Our answers to those who try shooting at civilians, our answers are straightforward. We destroy their equipment, we destroy their forward operating bases, and hunt down their ammo dumps and warehouses. So, about Ugledar, Russian side is claiming that Ukraine got additional troops on that front, got more support. So I cannot confirm anything from the official side until they talk about it, but since Russian media is keeping mum about any success, I would suspect that these events are somewhat real, because usually their propaganda is screaming about success when they take just the left wall of some cow farm. And if the topic completely disappears, it means they fail even to do that. Yeah, there is no Ugledar anywhere. That's right. It started pretty loud. There's got to be a victory. There'll be a big pincer movement. We're breaking Ukrainian army, and then all of a sudden, yeah, it disappeared from the news media. So let's go further from Marinka to Bakhmut, the eastern front. Similar attempts to continue attacks. a bit more difficult in the Gorlovka direction when they're approaching at 6 o'clock, 6:30 on this map, where they're approaching the road. It's not even a full-fledged attack, it's some tactical changes on that front, and they're trying to hold. They're also talking that they're fighting on the outskirts of Marinka. Oh yeah, they've been fighting near Marinka since before the 24th of February. That's at the bottom of this map, near 7 or 8 o'clock. And Pushilin is saying that they're already fighting in the center of Marinka. Well, yeah, I'm not even commenting. That's not even worthy my commentary, these statements. So let's go higher. What's going on in Bakhmut and Solidar? There is a lot of crisscross activity. In some parts they're in defensive mode, in some parts we are in defensive. If you hear anything in their statements about capture or holding positions, don't even trust that. They're talking about the situation is near surrounding Bakhmut. That same Pushilin character from so-called People's Republics. Yeah, they keep peddling propaganda. It's their usual thing. You need to declare that everything is all right to get an order and reward. Later, if things really not turn out to be all right, somebody else will have to report that, so he'll get all the blame and you already have your medals. Then what else is happening there? Belogorovka and a part between Kupensk and Slatova. No major changes there. Fights for hills and tactical positions on the front. Overall, the front is kind of hanging in the same position, excluding their continuous efforts to capture Bakhmut and their revived attempts to try to move near Gorlovka towards southwest. That protrusion at about lower half of the front on that picture, getting to the road. They're trying to cut the Rocade Road, the one that goes in parallel to the front, hoping to disrupt our activity there, hoping that if they break the front line a little and capture the road, the defense will fold. But Ukrainian army doesn't fight like Russian army, even if we get some breakthrough, and not in this case, but whenever they break through, we don't usually retreat. That's what they discovered. 155th Brigade of Pacific Fleet discovered when they ran by Pavlovka and captured some positions down there near Ugledar. And they hoped that we will retreat. We didn't. Now they got 400 plus dead and wounded from these hopes. So yeah, that's something like that. Is that all about the map? Yeah, I think that's it for today. Okay, so let's run across some of the news that popped. Kiev is planning to capture Crimea back in 2023, Economist posts, commenting Zabrodsky, who was the head of the airborne troops detachments of Ukraine and who has close relations with military circles of Ukraine. And I think Podolyak also made a statement that he will record a video from Yalta, that he'll make a selfie. And Medvedev, Russian person, he made a statement. He's the vice chair of the Security Council of Russia. He made a statement that Ukrainian politicians can stream from Yalta only if they find themselves imprisoned there, commenting Podolyak's statement that he will make a live stream from Yalta's embankment. So what can you say about that? Mikhail Mikhailovich continues to surprise me. He took the winning branch in making these statements. In his statements, he either destroys Iran or streams from Yalta. He's being pretty active. I just want to say that if he will be streaming from Yalta, we'll be doing it together. We'll either do a joint selfie or I'll be taking pictures. I will not let him go there alone. So, something like that. As for the plans, it's all generalities. All these statements that Russians are making now, we'll never give up Crimea, it's ours forever, that's all kindergarten. Kindergarten statements, I want that, it's mine. Because if you take objective data, nobody can hold Crimea. Even if it would have been held by Americans or Japanese or Israeli or any other army or Martians, this is a very vulnerable area. It is very vulnerable area, rather easy to capture. And the only source line for supplies is the Crimean Bridge, and then they're resorting only to ferries to transport everything, and then ferries are also within reach of our munitions, so that is a very difficult territory to hold. So do you think you support 6 months prognosis? 6 months, that'll be May-ish? Yeah, I think that's rather probable. Okay, so in that context, everybody sees these pictures from Bakhmut, again, comparing with the First World War, very slushy, very wet trenches, heavy boots, everything wet and muddy. Does it mean that Ukrainians are also waiting for some frost to change the terrain from liquid mud into something firm before we can await any counteroffensive? Well, look, the enemy is still continuing to do offensive actions, right? Yeah, you always call them offensive actions. That's not a full-scale activity. Right, regardless. They still have to figure a way to walk and move in mud, so they do, right? So soldiers can move in the terrain. That's not too difficult. It's just they don't want to fight during such a season. There are several weeks in the year, spring and autumn, rains and mud related to that, when army just is not too excited about doing that kind of activity. Can we do offensive? Yeah, technically we can. Is it effective? That's another question. Depends upon the area, depends upon our positions. And look, the front is big. The front is 1,300 kilometers, so there are places where we don't care about weather. There are places with big highways and roads where we don't really need much of field terrain to continue moving. But overall, if you compare weather and stuff, it's a little easier to do offensive operations when the soil is frozen. So in relation to that, I wanted to discuss the warm-up stations that you have in the cities. They're called places of non-destruction, places of non-defeat. So these are the places where people can hide, where army can... No, Mark, not army. These places are for civilians. Army is independent. Army doesn't care about electricity. This is one of the problems, actually, that Russian army is facing, that they can destroy all our infrastructure, they can destroy all our electricity lines. Civilians will suffer. Army will not give a damn. Okay, so how is that resolved? Okay, in the cities they do have the places with electricity where people can warm up, dry things up. What about the front, where soldiers need to put plastic baggies and somehow mitigate these conditions, and it's not really healthy for your feet? They start hurting, aching after a while. Mark, our soldiers were fighting and they will be fighting in these conditions. They already have experience. Most of them have experience. Those who've been a cadre military for a while, they already know what to do and how to deal with that. If anything, one needs to consider what Russian army would be doing. the mobilized troops probably have no idea how to deal with that. It all depends upon the locale, about the soil. There are trenches that are dry even in that weather, and there are trenches that are wet even in summer in 40 degrees Celsius, or what is it, 90 degrees Fahrenheit. In the norm, it looks like this. A soldier, if he has training and experience, they do warm up their feet. They use different shoes, different covers. He walks out of the covered facility, out of the covered part of the trench to observe. Everybody else are in those positions that are warm and dry, if they're done proper. Where you can eat, rest, dry up, and only the ones who are on duty are out in the trench, making sure observation is kept intact. And not everywhere this is possible, but in most parts where commander is experienced, where troops know what they're doing, that is a very normal situation. And I cannot say it's a resort, but I would say that yes, I've been to the battlefront in winter. It's difficult, but it's not a catastrophe. Let's put it this way. It's, I wouldn't even say difficult, it's just complicated. But I have some information about, coming from Russian side, that some of their troops are already freezing, some of them starting to suffer with inflammation of bladders, urinary tract. Oh yeah, if you don't have a place to dry clothes, if you keep your feet cold and wet, you get fungus, you get trench foot, you get inflammations, and your kidney system suffers. If they're mobilized, many of them are over 40. So in these conditions, immediately their overall system starts bringing up all the physical issues they have. So yeah, they will suffer. And if a soldier and a commander do not know how to live in the field in winter, in autumn, then it will become a big problem. And we do expect, we actually already know that there is a sharp rise of health issues with mobilized related to worsening weather conditions. They haven't reached the peak yet, but they'll be coming to that soon. And sanitary losses, they're not necessarily always from wounds. Very often it's just people who have to leave the front because they have health issues. More than 1 day absence is considered to be a sanitary loss. And I would say Russian army started in a way better condition than today. And even then, they had a pretty high percent of people suffering from COVID and all that. So we'll see how mobilized will fare that, but I expect it to become a rather serious factor in worsening their battle worthiness. You said it may get worse. What is the peak month and cold and conditions? So our meteorologists are promising this winter to be one of the warmest winters in the last few years. But in the field, even in warm winter, it's not too happy. It's not too simple. So it's difficult usually when it goes between humidity in the daytime and negative weathers, freezing weathers overnight. This is that fog and moisture, kind of what they're already getting into right now. This is a very difficult situation when everything gets wet. And also another big issue is firewood, because most of firewood in these conditions are also wet. And then people start using different fire starters like gasoline and pyrotechnics, and that becomes another source of issues and problems. People who know how to spend winters on the front in the trenches, they can stand that pretty well. It is complicated, it's work, but they know how to survive and they do fine. But the ones who are mobilized, the ones who don't, for them this can be a very severe winter. So we'll see. Okay, look, there was another news. Rater mentioned that Boeing is going to supply special missiles for HIMARS to continue fitting Ukrainian troops with new capabilities, and these are 100-kilometer range missiles that can reach pretty far. And I'm trying to read the details, how far do they go, but the claim is that they're rather cheap. I love media on the Russian side when they, in every commentary about military, they're saying that this armament is for destroying objects on the territory of Russia. So our partners are continuously telling us, imploring us to not use that on the Russian territory, and we do not. Whatever is booming there, that's their safety issues and people smoking in wrong places. So speaking of these missiles, they're not too cheap. Each of them is about 40,000 per piece. But yeah, they're good. And brimstones are good also. We recently got a new stash from Brittany and from Great Britain. And they are very effective in hitting Russian targets. So if you, by the way, if you're a careful observer, you start noticing that news are mentioning new different types of ammo that haven't been supplied and weapons that haven't been supplied before. This is a kind of concealed answer to those who are promising that our Western allies are limiting us, are stifling us, are not trying to really support us. And this is an answer. The nomenclature is growing. I don't think they are shrinking their support. They're minimizing it. No. Looking at these news, that new armaments are discussed. Okay, look, there is another commentary from Ukraine that the most effective way to resolve energy problems with Ukrainian infrastructure is to provide Ukraine missiles capable of reaching up to 800 kilometers. He's saying that with a nice irony, of course, but it has a degree of truth, right? Yeah. Then in this case, if we get something of 800 kilometers or 1,000, then we would be somewhat in a parity situation with Russia, because right now they can reach us from 2,000 kilometers. That's pretty far. We have 100, right, effective range, so that's not fair. It becomes a bit more equal when we suddenly get weapons that can start reaching their bases of their strategic bombers and some targets further out than 100 kilometers. So anything that improves that situation can indeed create that parity. The West, part of the West is in the diplomatic proverbial sitting on two chairs. So one of them are supporting, basically they're trying to support the situation where the war would neither settle fully in Ukraine nor transfer to the territory of Russia. So if we understand that, okay, war and NATO and Ukraine may have complicated relations, why are we not supposed to hit anything on the territory of Russia? They are destroying our cities. They are destroying our civilians. They are blatantly attacking our civilian targets. And they're discussing killing us by cold and lack of power this winter. We have no right to answer. We have no right to counter that. Why? Do you think the West can change their opinion? Because there is more information coming that next day or two there might be more missile barrages from Russia. Yeah, there are more warnings coming that there might be more missiles coming from Russia. Right, true. And I would add here something from myself, that if you hear a siren tomorrow, please do not neglect that. It is important. Majority of our recent victims were the ones who died in the open air, in the open area, who were not in shelters. So that's that. Regarding the West, they're going through a complicated evolution. Remember, about a year ago, our Minister of Defense Reznikov was asking for stingers, and we were told this is a grave escalations, you cannot have them. And in winter, their embassies were leaving Kiev, and Western media were saying very soon there'll be a great war, and our economy was losing 1.5 billion a month, for which we were planning to buy more military equipment. So we're bleeding money. But back then they were saying, no, never. Stinger, that's such a weapon. It will change the balance of force on the theater. It will change the world chessboard so much that we cannot supply you that. It's been, what? When did the first HIMARS arrive? In August, early August? So 9 to 10 months from those comments, we have HIMARS. If in February or March or in April, Americans would have said that they will supply HIMARS, they would not believe that. And if we asked them for HIMARS in those days, they would probably scream bloody murder. No, we're not doing that. So, it's evolution. It's evolving point of view. And let's see what happens, how it evolves in half a year, in another 9 months. They're evolving just like we do, slower than we would want them to. But the thing is that if you declared that your strategic goal, I'm taking the softest way, the softest of the declared ones, that we're not letting Ukraine lose and Putin win, and you have continuous strikes of cruise missiles on the civilian targets, plus there is a threat of Iranian missiles, Iranian drones, a lot of mobilized thrown on the front. You have to do something with that, because your noble promises to not let Ukraine lose and to not let Putin win, it is facing problems. Of course, we understand we will not lose, but for us to not lose at all, we need, even a little bit, we need the West to understand that they need to counter every new means of attack, and every new means of attack of offense can also be an old means just used in a new way, like massive missile barrages. That's a new approach to just single missile strikes. So they also cannot afford to face the full energy blackout in winter in a big European country, and they aren't. They are doing something. So there are two ways to do that. For example, saturate us with more air defense and missile defense systems. And that was the recent Polish and Germany and NATO discussion. Yeah, that was on the news radar. And the other option would be to give us offensive means that will increase our parity capabilities and will potentially increase the cost of such missile attacks for Russia, so that even madmen in Kremlin will start thinking twice before hitting certain targets. So for now, the West is giving us defense measures, but I think sooner or later it's not enough to just defend. In the modern warfare, and actually in any warfare, just defending is not enough. And then we'll see what happens. Okay. So out of other curious things, there is a video, I don't know if you've seen that in your busy daily life. There's a video about Prigozhin, some criminal authority, Alex Kurare. That's his that's his nickname. Yeah, I've seen that. I was sent that video almost immediately as it surfaced, and I was asked to discuss it. So I'm an attorney in my past. I know what I'm talking about in that area. Videos in such context. That person talks about Prigozhin being in the lower caste of prison hierarchy. Probably it could have been related to Prigozhin involving underage people into prostitution as part of his 12-year sentence for other offenses. So he could have deserved such a ranking because of that accusation line. But that person is basically saying that Prigozhin was a prison gay, and that everybody, according to their worldview and their values, everybody who follows such a person also become equal. No, there is a nuance. He actually is saying that everybody following Prigozhin, everybody gathering under his banners, they are becoming even lower than his rank. So this in the criminal world is a problem. For those who come there from the inmate category, that is a problem for them because it is part of their worldview and of their world. And I think it probably, I'm not discussing who have thrown that data in, who was the instigator, but it does create a problem for him. And I think this is an attempt to distance him from power sources in Russia, because I heard, I don't know if you heard that he was aiming to become a senator, to pick a territory to represent in the Russian upper chamber of legislature. So he probably wants to kind of continue his biography despite his earlier inmate status in his life, to get a status of a senator and achieve certain positions. So do you think he actually is fighting with a lot? There's a lot of infighting happening there between Prigozhin and other points of power in Putin's regime. Do you think this is a start of a campaign for him, for his demise? Because, okay, with his position, with that authority, you can probably do catering and do private restaurant business, which he did before, but it's a bit more difficult, more complicated to lead and head a private mercenary force such as Wagner. So you think that some responsible people, some respectable people found some other respectable people and asked them to start a campaign against him? We could have omitted that news, but okay, let's take a look. So ideally, that could lead to stifling the influx of inmates into private mercenary corps Wagner. So he loses in numbers and he loses in capacity that he can carry out on the front. He's getting less money, he's losing some influence, so theoretically that, yeah, is a probable version of it. Why not? And also, what else, what means can you find against him, especially if he is a protege of Putin? So I think the main task in this case would be to make him very toxic in relating with him, in continuous his relations with other elements of power of Putin's regime, with Zolotov or Kadyrov. Because Zolotov, he is essentially from the police world, and they, oh yeah, they're pretty much in the know on all these prison values. Yeah, there are many things you cannot do, right? You can't even shake his hand if he's in that caste. So I think that could be an attempt to isolate him from his friends and benefactors from up above, because it's not that important if he gathers 3,000 or 8,000 inmates and throws them on the front. It's important, but not too important. But given that the structure of Russian power ministries is also semi-criminal, these things matter there. This piece of information should create certain difficulties for him. He very likely will become more toxic. He can continue carrying on, but among people of the same rank, like that patriotic group that is trying to, pro-Putin's patriotic group that is trying to climb their biographies and their possible positions and ranks during this war, they will likely shun integrating their activities with Prigozhin. They will be looking for other means. We understand that, of course, Prigozhin distributes money, distributes certain wealth among his group, but it will affect his capability to do that. So I'm thinking it's not so much about the prison world and their future influx of inmates and continuous supply of inmates to the front. It's probably more about limiting him and his surroundings in climbing up the ladder of the regime. And that can be proven. Oh yeah, if that person indeed was in prison with Prigozhin, these things can be verified pretty quickly. And this was stated publicly, so this will be verified. And if it is so or not so, it will be made public also. It will be confirmed. And if indeed it is so, then it will make his life a bit more difficult. Because remember that video when he was in prison and he was making his statement as the alpha male. I can imagine what will be shouted towards him if he comes like that again. The thing is, they have to shout at him. They have to yell that name at him because not on the red zones, but on the black zones, they will have issues if they're not screaming these things at these people. And if they and those people who agree to go fight under Prigozhin, they will have immediate severe circumstances in their life in prison, because even 5 minutes for them among their inmates may be very fatal for their health and future life prospects in that case. And they usually spend several days before they get out of prison into his detachments. So it'll be interesting to say you cannot after the statements that he made that we're so rough and we're executing those who disobey and we're rewarding the ones who obey, after him sending that bloodied sledgehammer to European Parliament and FBI actually declaring 250 reward on his head and his whereabouts. So he doesn't need to, he cannot swallow these accusations, I guess, literally. He needs to find a way to counter that. So it's a very peculiar situation. They're attacking him at his heart. So we'll see what he does. So the thing is, that person who made a statement recorded a video. He's a criminal authority. He, according to his code, he cannot lie like that. If he made a false statements, he will have to answer for that. This is the way they operate. And this is, he's also, reminiscing about the history. And he's saying, remember 45? Yeah, they sent you to the front from prisons also, but you will always come back. You will always come back from the front. And those people who are fighting, they will have to face consequences after. So, under Prigozhin, he is in Turkey, right? That guy who recorded the video? Yeah, so they will find him. If his prison culture, his prison colleagues will find him if he's wrong, if he's making false statements. So I suspect he probably was not lying. We'll see, but there is a chance he is right. So it's interesting. And then it means indeed that there is squabble in the Russian upper levels of regime. Yeah, I'm quite sure this is a concentrated effort against Prigozhin. So that person, for example, knew that data, and he was mum for a while. He did not disclose that early on, and Prigozhin was active for quite a while now. So now this person decides, for some reason, to record the video, post it, gives his whereabouts so other authorities can come and talk to him and find it. And this is an interesting accusation of Prigozhin, and basically pointing finger in his direction, saying, you're a nobody, you're the lowest level of hierarchy. And it will be interesting. You know what funny would be, Mark? If that is not even related to Russian elites. If it was just criminal world, different views in the criminal world, that all of a sudden one of them decided to spill the beans about that. Could be. That'd be curious, right? But I would say that Russian criminal world is very closely intertwined with the power agencies, with their FSBs and police and everything. So chances are he was prompted to record that. So this also, by the way, characterizes Putin pretty well. How is he gathering data about people? Oh, I think he knew that. I think he knew. So if he knew, then... For example, Kadyrov and Zolotov. They need to raise their question, say, hey, whom did we dine with together? Did you invite us to sit and break bread with that person? With the same hands? And he's a hero of Russia, right, Prigozhin? That it becomes real problematic. So what about the hero of Russia? Actually, he's got three titles: Hero of DNR, Donetsk Republic, Lugansk Republic, and Russia. So, what's the status of that medal now? This is a very stinky story. Yeah, this is a very uncomfortable story for them. Stinks from any side you look at it. Okay, so we genuinely discussed that topic. We have not evaded that. And by the way, there are, of course, people who are accidental in Prigozhin's and Wagner troops, but there are professional killers who made their life in that and made that career for them. How it is for them, what are they thinking about themselves now? I'll actually keep an eye on some of those channels that they have on Telegram and other social to see how they can explain that. Okay, we've been live for about 40 minutes, 365,000 watching us, over 100,000 click the like button. We know that this is a definite decline. It's related to problems with electricity and energy in Ukraine, the ongoing and communications and internet. Mark, it's okay. We started with you from 25,000. Well, yeah, it was different, right? First, second, third, and fourth days of war. You know, it was a good resonance even with 25,000 online. So I think it's nice. I think it's good when you have, right, 500,000 watching you, but still, I think we're good. Yeah, I'm just trying to engage our viewers because many of them watch it on TV and don't click anything. And when you cast, you can't really click any button, or they forget to. But it's important. That's a mechanism. Oh, indeed, yeah. Once again, dear viewers, every like that you click brings that video to the eyes of 10 more people who haven't seen it. And this is an important brick in our victory. This data, this support of Ukraine, of what is happening, what is going on, this is important. Also, if you perhaps send it to the right person, that may save somebody's life when he watches that and decides to not get drafted, to avoid the draft, to avoid that mobilization. So this is an important work we're doing here, and you guys are definite part of that system. You can help us. So one more thing, Turkey is on the radar. They actually started another operation with Kurds. Moscow is barely reacting to that. Turkey has right for self-defense. It is related to those terrorist acts that recently happened there in Istanbul. And Syrian power, I mean Assad, is already screaming bloody murder. Turkey is invading territory of Syria and attacking some positions near Aleppo. And yeah, I think Assad's actually trying to counter, and they moved some troops to counter Turks. So what do you think? Any continuation in that situation? Possible? We've seen these operations, Mark. We've seen probably 5 of them already. They'll do another limited scope special operation in Syria this time. And very likely their target is, same 20 to 40 mile safety zone between Syria and Turkey. And possibly what? They might start fighting with, if any of the Russian troops are there. We've seen them before. They're already engaged by proxy, by Wagner and other troops, but still. So I don't think that will affect anything on a global scale. We also need to not forget that Kurds are allies of America's, so it is difficult to declare full-fledged war on them and try to destroy everybody. But yeah, they can declare a small operation, and it's probably is going to be limited by time, by resources, and if it grows, then yeah, we can bring up another map and start looking what's happening. We'll have 2 maps in our stream. I don't think it will lead to anything grandiose, but it is a peculiar part of the world, and it may affect some sides and disposition of power, so curious. We'll see. We've been live for 44 minutes, 362,000 watching us, 120,000. Click the like button. And once again, do not neglect sirens and signals of air defense. Please find shelter. Indeed, please follow the guidance. If that madman from Kremlin decides to bomb you again tomorrow, please go to shelters. Do not risk. And of course, as always, please subscribe if you have electricity or internet. Do not forget to subscribe to Feygin Live, to Olexiy Arestovych, and to the privateer station if you are listening to or watching that in English language. How is your tomorrow? Tomorrow is Tuesday. All's good? Okay. Yeah, let's do tomorrow. And we will see you tomorrow at the same time here. Hello to Prigozhin. Zhenya, hello. Oh, I'm not even saying hi. No, I'm not saying hi. Okay, yep, we shouldn't. By the way, Mark, do we have means to give to another grantee? Yeah, we have some accumulated. I will find. I heard a piece of news that. So, that mother of a 2-month-old kid who died in, or 2-day-old kid who died in a birthing house, she has more kids and she could use some support at this point. So let's probably, if you have contacts, please provide. Dear viewers, we'll find her and we'll talk to her. And I will elaborate on that because your communication is disrupting. So this is a known story in a delivery house where the little child died, and the mom who birthed him also has more kids, and if we can support that family, that would be great. The sooner we know the data, the more we can send some support. And just, send us data if you have contacts with her so we could verify that it's her indeed. And our project is ongoing. Please continue buying our merch. We are busy with new prints, so we'll talk tomorrow. We'll continue tomorrow. Okay. Goodbye, everybody.